Hey everybody, hope you're all doing well. Thanks for clicking on this video and welcome back to my YouTube channel. And I just wanted to drop by and give my thoughts on two albums that I kind of just listened to. These are super raw reactions, I guess. I didn't really, go back and have a lot of re-listens to these tracks yet. So two different albums, both completely unrelated, just happened that I kind of listened to both back to back. One has come out on the day of the day that I'm actually recording this. That's Submarine by the Marías, so that's the first one. And then the other one is, of course, Hit Me Hard and Hit Me Soft by Billie Eilish. So I guess, yeah, both are not related. I guess the only thing that's kind of connecting them is, well, first that I kind of listened to both of them on the same day, and they both feature people kind of underwater or submerged underwater on their cover art. So, take that as a connection if you'd like. I'm going to start with the Marías, Submarine. Just some background, like if you've listened to the podcast that I do, Aux Fiends, which I co-host, we just covered Cinema by the Marías. So if you listen to that, you might know that I'm a big fan of this band. Like, I just loved Cinema. I loved the album before that, Super Clean, the EP. A lot of the singles, the covers they've done, so huge fan. I was obviously very excited for Submarine. I'd been listening to the singles, and they actually released a lot of promotional material for this album as well, so I'd been following along with that to an extent. By the way, great promotional campaign for this album. I mean, the images, the videos, everything that they were releasing, some of the behind the scenes work, and then just the stories they were expressing about the creation of the album and everything about it. I just really enjoyed it, loved it, all the promotional materials. So I was very curious, with all this big marketing push that the band was doing, and this is an indie band, right? Less resources at their disposal. I was really curious to see if the album would live up, right? Because this is basically a sophomore feature, or not feature length, but sophomore like actual full album. And I was very happy to find that not only did it live up, it was just one of the greatest musical experiences I'd had in quite some time. I just loved and enjoyed this album so much. Very sonically confident. I was very concerned that they might use this aquatic or submarine theme in a very trite or gimmicky way, but no, it was actually exactly the opposite. They really used it to inform the lyrics and the sound of the album. Just thoroughly enjoyed everything about it. I loved the production. Obviously, the Marías have won a Grammy for audio engineering and production before. Loved everything that they did with the production this time. You can really see their sound kind of evolving in a new direction. Well, I wouldn't say new direction, but it's sort of the same direction, but now it feels bolder and more fully enveloping. I think their previous albums were a little bit more intimate and introspective, and this one is still intimate and introspective to an extent, but it really feels sonically bigger and like it's drawing you into a different world with each song. And I love the way in which they used the submarine theme, the aquatic theme throughout the album. Not very gimmicky at all, in my opinion. Maybe a few times, they're relying on like bubble sounds and things like that. But I thought it just enhanced the overall experience. I really enjoyed it. And I think if you're a fan of the Marías, I think this album is going to give you a lot of the core sound that they're known for, but also kind of take it in a new direction. And I just felt like there's so much to be learned from this band in terms of creative maturity, what they've done over time to take their, music into new places. And I think that this latest album is just another step in that creative direction. So I thoroughly enjoyed it. I mean, if I gave it out of 5, I'd give it a 4.5 because just one of the greatest musical experiences I've had in a while. And as I said, this is a very raw reaction, so I'm trying to think back to some of the track names. Obviously, Run Your Mouth was a fantastic single. Loved the music video. And it was really well placed, I think, in the album, which I was concerned about because it is such a fast-paced song, but surprisingly, or to my surprise, a lot of this album is quite fast-paced. Obviously, you have that kind of more intimate, introspective sound on here as well, which is what the Marías are known for, but very fast-paced and upbeat music a lot of the times, with obviously some sad, introspective undertones, which I enjoyed as well. So the Marías, Submarine, man, it's one of my like favorite albums right now. Obviously, I just kind of finished listening to it, but it's definitely going to be something I'm going to be re-listening to. And I've always been very creatively inspired by the Marías, so I was not surprised at all to an extent, about how good this album was. I was a little concerned, that it might not live up because I know there's just so many musical artists who, are not able to kind of level up their album, especially within the indie space. But I think this is a really big landmark album for the Marías and maybe indie music at large, because the way that they took their sound forward, I was so thoroughly impressed, and just, hats off to them, hats off to the entire band for pulling off an album that feels so full, as full as this one does. So again, hats off. Yeah, and then I listened to that entire album, and then literally like maybe like a few seconds later, I started the new Billie Eilish album. Big fan of Billie Eilish. I think she's literally one of the most game-changing artists in mainstream music, mainstream pop music for sure in the U.S. What she and her co-producer, her brother Phineas, do has always been very impressive to me, and I constantly, go back to Billie Eilish's previous albums. Again, very creatively inspiring. The way that they harmonize vocals and production is just fantastic. So, yeah, I think if I'm getting the album name right, I think it's Hit Me Hard and Hit Me Soft. Hopefully that's correct. But yeah, I think amazing album, first of all. That's why I'm, here talking about it. And one of the things that I felt with Billie Eilish's previous work is that both her and Phineas as a producer kind of want to explore different genres through Billie Eilish's voice. I think the first album, Where Do We Go When We All Fall Asleep? Hopefully I'm misquoting that, but it felt, I think it was a album that worked perfectly for its time, and I still think it holds up very well. Very experimental. People don't give it credit for that. I think people just think about it as this dark, edgy, kind of young adult album, but it was quite ahead for its time. And I think the genres that they explored there with that kind of dark atmospheric sound, I think nobody's really done that. And I think it situated Billie Eilish in a really cool place. Happier Than Ever, obviously very kind of a silkier, jazzy sound, there's been a million, I think, commentaries on the transition from her first album to the second. And now with this album, I really feel strongly that this is where we're getting, Billie Eilish's music as a brand or as a genre almost unto itself. And I think it has a lot to do with Phineas's production on this one, especially. I think this is one of the most, I almost want to say showy albums production-wise, but it is like fantastically bold and innovative as well. And I give it full credit for that, honestly. I was always kind of in suspense of the way that this album would go, sonically speaking, the way that they use, of course, they're still exploring different genres, but it feels so confident in the sound that Billie Eilish is now known for and that Phineas has cemented himself as a producer, from techno switch-ups to guitar to, I think everything, rock music, as I said, electronic music, jazz music, like it's just so harmonized, though. It doesn't feel like it's a gimmick. Again, to overuse that kind of line of critique, I think it never really feels like a gimmick. And I think obviously big kudos to Phineas, but also really big kudos to Billie Eilish, because if you're one of those people who've always felt that, you don't like the whispery sound of Billie Eilish's music, or you're just not into that type of music, give a listen to this album, because I think she's really taken the core of that sound but expanded it. Her voice sounds expanded, it sounds propulsive, it sounds larger than life. It sounds personal, but still, it sounds way more epic, I would say, than it has ever before. And the way that it goes with Phineas's production on this was just amazing for me to see, amazing for me to experience. This is like, the interesting thing about this album is I listened to it very loud on the speakers. I felt like that was a great experience. But somehow, I feel with Billie Eilish's music, and especially this album, you might be getting a whole different type of experience if you listen on headphones, because As you know, her albums are known for that layered, textured sound, and I think it works amazingly well on both kind of ways. Like you could listen on, loud on the speakers or, in the headphones. But I think it'll work equally well either way. In fact, it'll probably be a different experience either way. So yeah, I was, as I always am, very impressed by Billie Eilish's work. The one thing I will say about this album, I felt that it got a little bit repetitive in the back half. I felt like I lost some interest, even though I was still really interested in the album as a whole. I think the back half of it, and it's a very short album, about 10 songs. It does clock in at like 45 minutes, but not a lot of tracks. But I would say the last, yeah, maybe 3 or 4 tracks, maybe less than that. I personally lost some interest, which I think, yeah, it just got repetitive for me a little bit, at least within the constraints of this particular album. But still, like, amazing work. Like, I mean, I think both these albums, and that's why I wanted to make a video about this. For me, both these albums represent what it means to take your creative voice in a maturing direction. And I want to say that because it's an evolution, right? I think music especially, and I've seen so many musical artists, especially these days, they're kind of stuck in a rut, I feel. They're not pushing forward. But I think both the Marías and Billie Eilish, they to me are an example of musical artists who not only escape the rut and move forward and progress and evolve their sound, evolve their artistic voice, but they manage to keep the essence of what makes them true and real and what differentiates them. And I think that came out to me so powerfully listening to these two albums. I had to make a video about it and talk to you guys about it because it was just such a salient feeling of creative inspiration that I felt, listening to both these albums, especially back to back. Even, I mean, as you know, this YouTube channel is mostly focused on film reviews, but I would say there hasn't even been really that many movies this year that have made me feel this creatively inspired or impressed by, creative direction. I mean, these are such well conceptualized albums, so intelligently created and designed, really big creative forces. Again, this is just my raw reactions. I'm definitely going to be re-listening to both these albums. I'm sure my own thoughts might evolve and change, but yeah, big thumbs up and big recommendation for both of these. And yeah, personally, I'm more excited to re-listen to the Marías just because I think what they've done with the indie sound is, even more incredible. But both albums, fantastic. I would say I would say Marías, like I said, 4.5 out of 5, so maybe like a 9 out of 10. And then Billie Eilish's album, I'd still say is like an 8 out of 10, so they're both up there. Fantastic work, and definitely go check those out on Spotify or wherever you stream music. So yeah, guys, I just wanted to drop in and say hi, first of all, and basically give you my thoughts on some of this. Be sure to, check out my Aux Fiends podcast. Me and my co-host kind of do a lot of great stuff there. We talk about albums way more in depth. We go track by track. Check out the movie reviews and everything. So thanks, guys, for watching.